and I go do some heinous act, right? I mean, a little child can understand that. If I really, really hated Jews, then what I do is I become a Jew, and then I do some horrible thing to then everybody. Oh, it was a Jew. Did you hear it? It was a Jew that did that. You see, you understand how that worked? It's not hard to figure out. But I guess probably not particularly religious would have been more apropos to what I was trying to convey. It's just that I don't think God calls on us to be religious. He calls on us to be righteous, good, decent people that care about conscience and integrity and honor and reputation and his opinion of us and our fellow man's opinion of us. Yeah. But I don't know if that means constitute being religious. Why should it? Especially if religion is seen as a bad thing. Okay. But those things I mentioned are good things. You want those qualities. You value your soul, right? It's a good thing. You know, all these new diseases that we hear about, they didn't exist a few years ago. I mean, just a couple decades. I mean, ADHD, ADD, bipolar, they were all just like neurosis or neurotic were terms we use. People got depressed, yeah, but we got a little neurotic. And how can we not all help but be a little neurotic? I mean, driving on an LA freeway, if you weren't neurotic before, you are afterward. Okay, it's the whole system is coming out on people. It's like an arena out there on the freeways, on the highways, and it's just emblematic of what's going on inside of people, their hearts and minds. And if they're not at ease, if they're always in a hurry or always frustrated, and then you're going to see it in the way they drive, and you're going to feel it, the disconnection, the inhumanity out there on the freeways and highways, and how people behave. But it all comes back to our social, political, and economic reality locally, and that's stemming from on high. We're being manipulated, so that's why so many of these people, this paradox they're facing. I mean, if somebody that says I'm just going to claim the nutty card and go get disability, I can understand it. I don't care about my gun rights or anything else. I just want to be a nut and get government assistance with being a nut. Yeah, I'm out, so I can understand why a lot of people would choose that. Doesn't mean they're stupid. That means they're dropped out. It's kind of like Scripture says that we're supposed to hate our lives in this world. So these people that decide, hey, you know what, I just can't play the game. I don't want to play an evil game. They hate their lives in this game, in this world. Like Jesus said, that's what you must do to inherit eternal life. I get that. I can appreciate that. The paradox is that we're supposed to be the happiest ones. The ones that have jumped ship first, they're at least got a better possibility, they know, of not dying out there. And so, they're the ones that stop and smell the roses and listen to the sages and the wise men through the years and benefit from it, or have gladness of heart by having right values, valuing their conscience, integrity, honor, and soul and reputation, all those good things. So they're the happiest ones. But it's a paradox because they're also the ones that get it. And when you get it, it's traumatic. You say, God, help us, just like I'm pointing out. Why you should hate your life in this world, it should be very clear. Because the rulers of this world are evil, like Jesus spelled out. He called him the prince of the darkness, the world, Satan, the spirit thereof, whatever it's a metaphor for. But there's some bad, bad, bad actors out there that have no no value for conscience. Okay, they just throw that out the window like, a little piece of litter. They don't care. That's nothing. They just want the power in this world, the money, all the other things that go with it, the control over others. That's what they love. That's where their lust and their loyalty lies, their devotion, their faith is in those things. So yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow for people. And so it is a paradox to be the happiest people in the world, but also to be the most sober-minded, down-to-earth, serious people about how, frightening this situation we're in is. Because it is, man. We need God's help. All right, stuff I've already talked about in the pontification period, I'm not going to go into. But, I can liken people that drop out of the system to like conscientious objectors People that decide they're not going to vote on conscientious objector grounds. I mean, what if we did just unify, and what a statement that would be to the political class, how scared they would be shaking in their shoes, all of them. Remember, they've been taking us on the same trajectory. Those that claim to be liberals or conservatives or Democrats or Republicans or socialists or capitalists, and it's a bad trajectory to one of death and destruction and wealth disparity. All of them have done this to us. So, what kind of a message would that send if all of a sudden everybody stopped voting? That would spook the crap out of these people and really make them start thinking about how they've been serving us, or I should say, betraying us, and how their loyalties is allied with the money masters of misery. So I understand people that want to drop out of this system, man. I definitely do. I can be likened to those jumping ship the first. But a conscientious objector is not a coward. Okay, they're not going to a war because they're afraid to go. They're not going to the war because they don't believe in the war, right? So let's just be honest about that. Okay, let's see. Continuing here. I saw Chuck Lorre being interviewed on CBS Sunday Morning, and I really sense this man's got a soul. I have to say, I kind of was impressed, and I think I like the man quite a lot, Chuck Lorre. But he talked a little about his fears and how they were manifesting as anger in his life, and how that was how he was coming across. And I get that. I mean, that's a matter of fact that fear does tend to manifest itself, and we come across as angry. But we're scared. We're all scared. That's a lot of the vibe we're all picking up collectively, and we can't help it because we're getting it osmotically. Last week I said California has some of the highest prices in the world, but of course that was erroneous. What I meant to say is California has some of the highest prices in the nation, gasoline prices, and they passed the gas tax, so we had a critical mass of people that voted to raise my taxes, the poor. They raised taxes on the poor. Anytime a tax also must be paid by the poor, that, my friends, is a tax on the poor. I mean, come on. We're in so much trouble when everybody thinks it's such a wonderful thing to tax the poor and make them pay. We're in so much trouble. God help us. God help us. I don't know what's going on. I noticed a technical difficulty in my audio video when I was uploading it. I don't think it's on my end. I don't think it's a dirty camera or anything like that. I do think it is a YouTube issue. I'll see if it happens again. But I use this Elgato device to upload these videos, get them off the camera and into my files, and I don't think it's a problem with that either. Nothing is dropped or anything, so it's unlikely it's on my end, but I apologize for the technical issues. Yeah, on all these politicians with the money they have to spend, I just give them a government stipend, and that's it. For advertising, that's all any of you get. Just a set amount. Whoever qualifies to run, all you get is a government stipend, so use it wisely. The rest, the television companies can put out for charity. But to pay them for putting out these commercials for these people and all the money involved, no, we should disallow it. These campaign contributions, no, none of that. And all that special interest crap, lobbying, all that crap, none of that crap should be allowed. I hate it. I freaking hate politics, man. And no pre-voting polls, none of that. And exit polls could only be allowed after the election. And in a voting fraud investigation, if there's any, so we've got to really get it together here, man. And no more digital voting, only write-in votes, either mail-in votes, mail-in ballots, or just voting cards, physical cards. That's it. But again, paying this gas tax for the poor is like I said, for the rich, those that are well heeled, it's like pricking them with a pin. So many of these people will drive hybrid cars and stuff. I mean, yeah, they're trying to save money on gas, and they stick it to those that are paying, the gas. You know what I mean? So they say it's not going to hurt me at all. It's going to be a nominal fee to me, like a pinprick, tiny pinprick that I might barely feel. But for others, they divorce themselves from the pain of others who it's like jamming a spike in their arm. They're going to bleed to death. You understand? They're going to play in that game of Monopoly. They're the next one out. They can't afford to pay the rent anymore. They can't afford to play the game anymore. So this is what you're doing by voting that it's okay to tax the poor. That's what you've done here. So I'm sorry, but you know what? The blood is on your hands and head of the desperately poor that are going to die out in the cold tonight. It's your fault. All those that don't believe we should have a basic income, all that crime, the homicides, all that's your fault. Okay? And all those that claim to be fiscal conservatives but aren't because I could dramatically lower your taxes through a basic income, it's all your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. You're shooting yourself in the foot. You're cutting off your nose to spite your face. You're banging your head against the wall because it just sounds too liberal. I can't. Well, then just turn to God for advice. Say, would this be okay if everybody was born with shares in the planet's goodies, the resources? I mean, would that make any sense? Is that socialist? Is that communist? Or is that just, God's will being established on earth? And then when you realize it's just God's will being established on earth, maybe you'll change your tune. But you'll answer. Your beliefs better hold water, okay? Or else I'm very scared for you because, for your beliefs, you'll fight and die and kill and maim and kill others. And it's powerful. So if you have delusional thoughts in your head, they're not going to hold water. They're not consistent with the right thoughts that God will give you if you ask. Then I feel sorry for you. But you better get with the program, man, God's program. Because it's the only way that we're ever going to fix our problems in society. That's it, man. That's the only hope we have. Yeah, these idiots like the bomber and this idiot that shot up the synagogue. They gave ample warning. If the FBI was monitoring these people's social postings, internet social postings, then they would have found that they should have been watching these clowns, okay? And they shouldn't be able to have guns. And when they're psychotic and they make these threats against people, they shouldn't be allowed to have guns. That's my opinion. The mainstream media says that OPEC may begin cutting production next year to raise the price of gasoline. So that's like in-your-face market manipulation, and people just learn to accept it. This whole supply and demand business turned on its head. And then they're going to dare call this capitalism, where you see anti-progress, regression, where your cost of living just perpetually, in the grand scheme, if you put it on a graph, it's going the same directions. You see tiny minor dips here and there, and just keeps going the same direction, badly. The Labor Department utterly remiss. This could have prevented this whole problem because employers would have said, what do you mean? By law, I got to give these people a raise, these minimum wage workers? What the hell? I don't like being forced to do stuff. Who's to blame here? These greedy minimum wage workers? No. They're just trying to stay even Steven. So the Labor Department would have been 100% purely justified to give commensurate cost of living adjustments if the cost of living is being manipulated upward, thus debasing your currency, through giving a raise to the minimum wage workers. By not doing it, mathematically speaking, for all intents and purposes, which math is a science, scientifically speaking, I'm saying, so it's irrefutable, then it's just like getting a pay decrease. You understand? So it's like your pay just keeps going down. For decades, minimum wage workers have been getting paid less and less and less. How do you justify that? You're going to stand before God and you're going to justify that? But that is what has happened. Do you hear the mainstream media talking about this? They talk about a lot of economic issues without saying that these are economic issues, and we got to talk about the big picture and what is true capitalism and what is crony capitalism by the effects. What is progress relative to these things? Okay? What is regress? They don't try to educate the public. Even though the mainstream media is the cutting edge educators, they don't lift a damn finger to try to really educate people. So where are the talking points for the mainstream media coming from? The Bilderberger Group, these grand puppeteers. And they're in with the money printing class and these political sycophants. They're all working together, collaborating, colluding against the best interests of the masses. And they don't give a crap if we all jump off a cliff. They don't need us anymore. They've got automation, mechanization, the industrial age is in full bloom, technology, all this crap. They need far fewer of the useless feeders. So yeah, genocide on an unthinkable scale is the delight of their hearts. They would love to see that. That's what they want. So people, that should be a unifying point for us. That we're in this thing together. So